A graphic appears titled Independent Living, Preparing an Emerging Adult for Life.
18 is not a magic number. Once you turn 18, your brain is not fully developed, especially for kids who have been in foster care. There's a lot of barriers that are already placed on us. Once you turn 18, the expectation is that you're just an adult and you're supposed to know all of these things and set up a bank account and go to school and drive and all of these different things that you're supposed to do on your own. But children who are in normal situations are not expected to just leave their home whenever they're turning 18. We're supposed to continue to love them and support them after they turn 18, just as they were our own child, because that's how foster parents are supposed to treat their children now.
Young people that age out of foster care experience higher rates of homelessness, incarceration, trafficking, and just, outcomes that add to trauma that they have already experienced from even being in foster care and what led them to be in foster care in the first place.
Just because they turn 18, you're not ready, most are not ready to be on their own. You don't take the training wheels right before you go down a big hill. And at 18, that's a big hill for most kids.
Participating in a program that supports them and helps them navigate that transition into adulthood really sets them up for success and what that looks like to them. It allows them more time to grow and gain independence and learn as an adult with supportive adults helping them along the way, whether that's through our independent living specialists, the Youth Villages Life Set program, some of our supervised independent living programs, and even our foster parents that support this population of youth aging out of foster care. It really helps them to stay on path with their goals.
We feel that a child does not become an adult until they're actually ready to live on their own, pay their bills, be able to function every day without don't forget your socks, don't forget your deodorant, whatever it may be. That's adulting. 18 is not adulting. 18 is figuring out what in the world happens next.
Extension to foster care is a good way to keep young adults connected to the supports that they're connected to while they're in foster care. And once they age out at 18, they're able to experience the same support that they've been having before with an added independent living stipend. They're able to go on to college, or now they're able to continue working without having the pressure of going into school, because school is not for everybody. Some children are choosing to go to college so that they have a place to sleep. And now they're not going to have to do that.
And that's super important because oftentimes young people, when they age out of foster care, they need a gap year or they need some time to settle after they complete their high school education. They oftentimes need an opportunity to work and gain those employment skills, and then think about, going to school. So this flexibility allowed an opportunity for us to serve more young people in extension of foster care and really just give them options.
It's a scary experience because you're looking at your future, and if something doesn't work out, you kind of don't have any net to catch you.
It is a big nosedive into a deep pool of unknown. They're having to probably change their homes again. They're changing caregivers. They're changing social workers again. In the midst of all that change, that's when you need to be the most consistent, because they're really going to start testing those. Well, what am I supposed to do as an adult now? Well, you're not an adult now, but you're going to have some more freedoms to make more decisions about your own care, about your own future. That's the difference.
You have a time window that you're working against, and but you can't lose focus. And you have to be strong even when the child is like, this is daunting. What's going to happen? I'm coming up against this deadline. And it can be an emotional situation there.
Make sure to stay connected with your caseworker and your independent living specialist and your foster parents. These are individuals that are here to help you navigate that transition into adulthood, and know that you're not alone.
I think something that is important for foster parents to remember now is that you were a teenager once. Knowing the support that you needed as just, a normal teenager, a teenager who wasn't in foster care, what are the supports that you needed then? You remember how lost you must have felt, graduating high school, going to high school for the first time, and having the barriers of foster care placed there makes it that much harder.
So testing those skills that you do every day, that's what you need to step back and have them do. Calling to make doctor's appointments. He was like, Mom, I don't know your schedule. Doesn't matter. You make it to your schedule and I will figure it out.
There are just a basic set of credentials that you're going to need. There are a basic set of skills that you're going to have to master. If you're going out into the world, and if you're going to be by yourself, or if you're going to have someone, to help you along the way, but you still have to have a roadmap, if you will, the birth certificate, because without that, driver's license, ID, social security card, you got to know how to drive. And so that's a whole nother scenario, because you're faced with, he's not on your insurance. So, just working out, calling around, finding out, okay, how much does it cost to educate him in how to drive? Life skills, checking account. Can they be able to manage that, to balance that out? They don't have a lot of money, but what you do have, how are you managing that? And I go by that checklist. I keep it in my phone and I review it periodically. Where are we?
They need those documents to gain employment, to get into school if they want to go to post-secondary education. Those are all things that are important that they need when they're transitioning out of foster care.
Coming into foster care, it's scary within itself. And then, looking at 18, you're kind of at the point to where it's like, you trying to see if someone cares about you. And through all that time, he was there saying, be in the net, like I said before, and knowing that there's a net, someone there to hold their hand out and catch you is something that I'm extremely grateful for.
Teens are still just that little kid looking for support, looking for someone to love them.
But just having someone to come and talk to you and help you organize those kind of tasks you have to complete.
And breaking them down into its smaller constituent parts is one of the skills that I really wanted him to master.
Communicate with everybody. There's going to be a lot of information and resources that's coming to you that you will qualify for. Take those things serious. Get connected to your independent living specialists because they're the experts on your transition. Having a lot of patience and still knowing what the end game is. And, check off that box, check off that box, and check off that box. And then you get with your caseworkers, okay, this is where we are. Is this where we need to be? He calls them the people that he's worked with in Nashville, his grandparents, Miss Matthews, because the oversight definitely helps. If I could impart one bit of critical information to anyone that would want to ride in this same seat, is to make sure you document your stuff. It's gonna save you a lot of angst and a lot of time. Should an option be available to you, you want to be able to readily take advantage of it. But also think about that transition and what you want life to look like after foster care, and let us help you achieve that.
I would say another thing that EOC helps with is kind of getting the stress off your shoulders going into the age of 18. That's another one, real big help.
These teens, you know what they want? They don't want the things and the stuff. They want you. If they need you, show up. If they call you, pick up the phone. That's what they need more than anything.
This whole experience with DCS took him from a future that may not have been the best future and reinvented that into something that he is proud of. And that says a lot for the system. A lot of times you can complain about what's wrong, but you never really concentrate on what's right and those that it really helped. And for Stephen, DCS was the best thing that could have ever happened to him.
It's basically extending the program to meet our young people where they are.
As long as the child has a direction that is forward, then that means they're less likely to go backward.
And for our young people that's in college, having a place to return to on the breaks, having a place to be able to come home to is really important for this population. So we need more foster parents that is willing and ready and able to support our teens and our young adults in extension of foster care.
Know what kind of man you want to be now, and put, I guess, objectives that you can complete to become that man. That in the next few years, that's who I'm looking to become, just a better man.
You are safe. Everything is going to work out in our favor, and it might seem dark today, but tomorrow's a new day.
A graphic appears titled Tennessee Department of Children's Services.